Well, of course, my name is Maria Lomas from my childhood. I was born right there in Kingsville, on Ella Street, one of the old part of town. And I was born in June the 9th, 1924, to Antonio Lomas and Elisa Medina. My father, Antonio Lomas, came from Cerralbo, Nuevo León, Mexico. I don't know exactly the year, but it was about 1917 or 15, somewhere around there. Kingsville was born 1904, and my mother, Elisa, was born at the King Ranch, who were the founders of Kingsville, and she was born in 1908 to Lázaro Medina and Maria Horta. Maria, her mother, was born in another ranch in South Texas, and her father, Lázaro, came from Mexico, and his roots are from Spain and French. I don't know exactly the roots of my father, Antonio, but I do know that he was born there in Cerralbo, Nuevo León. Anyway, I was the oldest in the family of 8 children, and it was just me and my other sister as girls, and the rest were boys. It was right after I finished high school, I went to work at the Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi. And before I finished high school, that's when I met my husband, Mucio. He was a sailor. And after he came back in 1945, after the war ended, he also went to work at the Naval Air Station in Corpus. And 1 year later, that's when we got married. I met my husband the year before I finished high school. He came home on a leave, and he was wearing a uniform at the time when he kind of saw me for the first time or tried to follow me coming from the store with groceries. So anyway, he asked permission to speak to me or walk along with me, and I said, well, it's okay. And then after that, our friendship kind of took off, and he went back to the service because he was in the service, so I had to wait until the war ended before he would come home for sure. And we kept on with our friendship and our courtship. Then after I finished school, I went to work at the Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi. And I did that until I got married. And after I got married, I kept on working, and then my husband asked me to quit working.
Mm-hmm. What did you do on the Naval Station?
We used to do, at the time, because the war was still going on, we used to cover small airplanes, the kind that have 2 wings. They're small planes for maneuvers and for training. And what we did, we would cover the wings out of material, and we had to sew it on by hand. So that's what we did.
And were you working with only other women?
Oh yes, a lot of other ladies were working there. Most of them were elderly ladies. I was practically the only young one. And I think it was because I had a little experience in sewing. I started sewing when I was about 10 years old. Yes, there was a lot of other Mexican American women working in other parts of the base, other sections. Some were not necessarily where I was, but in other parts of the base doing something else. No, to me, I was just very proud to be able to work at the base because this is our nation, this is my country. And working there, I thought it was a privilege, to be able to work there, especially after I finished high school, even though I could not go to college because I did not have enough money to go to college, even though we have a college there in Kingsville, which would have been very convenient for me to do. But nevertheless, I didn't have enough money because I had to help my parents with whatever little money I earned at the base. To me, what really hurts is that I still see a lot of discrimination, even though they're veterans and went to war and all of that. And the women, of course, we had to fight for our rights, no matter against who. That's what I feel. I don't care if it's a man or a woman or whatever. If my rights are being trampled on, I will fight for that.
Can you remember a time in the war years when you actually had to fight for your rights, when you had to speak up for yourself? What was that
During
like?
the war years,
Or even as a child before that?
well, I actually was not able to fight for my rights because we were put in such a position that we could not speak out. If he clearly said no Mexicans allowed or no service to Mexicans, that was it. We had to go ahead and accept it or else. But anyway, I was kind of patient, waiting for the day when we might be able to see the light. When the GFORM was established by Dr. Hector Garcia, who was himself a veteran, and the reason why he established this organization was because of discrimination that started because of the denial of a funeral of a military person, a young man that had been killed in action, and he was denied services at a funeral home because he was of Mexican descent. So that's when the whole thing started, and that's when the GFORM was established, and eventually it was chapters and chapters in each city, and eventually it got to our town in Kingsville, and my husband and myself were involved with the chapter that got started there. Of course, even when I was a kid, I encountered a lot of discrimination. And as much as I hate to bring this subject up, because even nowadays you hear people saying, try to forget what you went through, but it's very hard to forget. We can forgive, but we cannot forget. Like a gentleman in Kingsville that just published a book, and that's the title of his book. I can forgive, but I cannot forget. And in a way, I can see how it's true what he said, because we're constantly being reminded of who we are. I see a lot of people now getting along with each other, with all the races, to me, that makes me very happy. Because we were created by one God, and only He knows why He made us different. It's His plan, and we should respect it. And whether our color is brown or black or yellow or white, who are we to criticize God for creating us the way He did? We just have to be a little more patient with each other and try to love each other more. And I want to thank God that I have been able to share my life with this lover boy here for over 50 years, 54 years. And I thank God for all our 5 children and all our 8 grandchildren. That's it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here myself and be around our grandsons and daughters and
Son.
sons and all. So I'm very glad to be here